therefore, with whatever evil people cared to imagine. In 1980, after the release of the infamous and fraudulent memoir, Michelle Remembers, which popularized the notion of secret satanic cults torturing children, law enforcement briefly took interest in LaVey. The FBI even interviewed him in 1980 regarding an alleged plot by others to murder Senator Ted Kennedy, a rumor tied into grandiose ideas of a satanic conspiracy. According to the FBI files, LaVey was cooperative and dismissive of any such plot. He told agents that most of the church's followers were fanatics, cultists, and weirdos, and that his interest in the Church of Satan is strictly from a monetary point of view. This candid assessment, essentially calling many of his fans kooks, was not something LaVey would have said publicly, but it revealed his pragmatic and even jaded view in private. The FBI closed their inquiry, finding no evidence tying LaVey to any crime. Nonetheless, during the 1980s, LaVey often felt under siege. As the New York Times later noted, the satanic panic led to over 12,000 unsubstantiated accusations of satanic ritual crimes across the United States. LaVey's Church of Satan, while not directly accused in most cases, became a boogeyman in the eyes of many Americans. LaVey received death threats. The Black House had rocks and bottles thrown at its windows by vigilante types, and in response, LaVey mounted barbed wire around the roof of the Black House and posted no trespassing signs with an image of a gun. He was growing older, in his 50s now, and had no appetite for brawling with angry Christians on his lawn, so he hunkered down. As one acquaintance put it, by the 80s, LaVey was holed up at home, playing the organ for whoever was willing to listen. The days of frequent public rituals were over. Occasional private invitation-only ceremonies were held, but LaVey no longer performed for TV cameras or outsiders. When asked why, he said that he did not want the Church of Satan to be seen as just a sideshow curiosity. It was a philosophy for those who understood, not a spectacle for mass consumption. LaVey's personal life in this era was also tumultuous. His longtime partner and high priestess, Diane Haggerty, finally left him in the early 1980s. After over 2 decades together, their relationship had deteriorated, and Diane grew tired of LaVey's infidelities and controlling behavior. In 1984, she filed a palimony lawsuit against LaVey, seeking a share of assets from their years cohabitating as the First Lady of Satan. The court filings were tabloid gold. They squabbled over who would get the collection of medieval torture devices, the crystal ball, the coffin, and even the large bust of the devil that they owned. Ultimately, Diane won a modest settlement, but the break with Diane had another consequence. It alienated LaVey's second daughter, Zena, who had sided with her mother. In 1985, Zena Schreck, formerly LaVey, who as a child had been the poster girl of Satanism, publicly renounced her father and the Church of Satan. She accused LaVey of being a fraud and an abusive father, and eventually aligned herself, their father's rival, Michael Aquino, for a time. Zena later pursued her own spiritual path in occult and Eastern traditions, but wholly disavowing the Church of Satan. This familial betrayal hurt LaVey deeply. In response, he essentially disowned Zena and rarely spoke of her, except to disparage her companions. On a happier note, LaVey did find love again with a new disciple, Blanche Barton, a fiercely loyal young Satanist who became his companion in 1984 after Diane's departure. Blanche revitalized the aging high priest. She took over many administrative duties, and in 1985 officially assumed the title of High Priestess of the Church of Satan. To the outside world, Blanche defended LaVey's reputation ardently, especially against the swirl of satanic panic lies. LaVey and Blanche lived a quiet life by night, entertaining occasional church members or friendly journalists. They delighted in watching old horror movies and playing music together, Blanche on vocals and LaVey on keyboards. Despite the dark persona, Friends noted that in private, LaVey could be charming, funny, and even domestic, cooking steaks for guests and doting on his pets. Still, he never lost his edge. He wrote scathing essays in the church's newsletter, railing against everything from New Age white light gurus to the mediocrity of pop culture. And he continued to issue curses now and then, at least in print. One notorious piece he penned was Bleeding Heart Liberals and the Nine Rings of Hell, in which he fantasized about elaborate tortures for those he considered society's true villains, animal abusers, rapists, and televangelists. It was half tongue-in-cheek and half deadly serious. Classic LaVey. By the 1990s, Anton LaVey had outlasted the satanic panic and seen his teachings quietly influence a new generation. A rising wave of heavy metal and goth musicians lionized LaVey as an elder statesman of alternative culture. None was more famous than shock rocker Marilyn Manson. In the early 90s, Manson reached out to LaVey, sending him a demo tape and expressing admiration. LaVey, who despised rock music in general, but recognized Manson as a fellow provocateur, welcomed the young musician. He granted Manson an honorary priesthood in the Church of Satan and became something of a mentor figure to him. Manson later recounted that he and LaVey bonded over their mutual goal of toppling Christianity with the weight of its own hypocrisy. Through figures like Manson, LaVey's philosophy seeped into 1990s pop culture, in lyrics, imagery, and attitude, even as the man himself remained in semi-reclusion. In 1993, at age 63, LaVey experienced a late-life joy. Blanche Barton gave birth to his only son, whom they named Satan Xerxes Carnegie LaVey. Ever dramatic, LaVey insisted on Satan as the first name for the baby boy, a declaration that the line of the devil's advocate would continue. Fatherhood at that age mellowed LaVey out somewhat. Friends said he adored his toddler son and spent hours entertaining him with circus music and handcrafted toys. LaVey now had 3 children in total, Carla, Xena, and little Satan Xerxes, though only Carla and Satan Jr. remained in his life by the mid-90s. His eldest, Carla, had reconciled with him and became an active figure in the Church of Satan, often acting as a spokesperson. As the 20th century neared its end, LaVey's health quietly declined. Years of late-night living, a reported fondness for whiskey, and the stress of being a pariah had taken their toll. Fittingly, an air of mystery surrounded Anton LaVey's death. In October of 1997, LaVey suffered a pulmonary edema, or fluid in the lungs, and was rushed to St. Mary's Hospital in San Francisco. The irony was that this was a Catholic hospital. The devil's own was treated by nuns in his final hours. LaVey lingered unconscious for a couple of days, and then, on October 29th of 1997, he passed away at age 67. Curiously, due to a paperwork error or delay, the death certificate recorded the date as October 31st of 1997, or Halloween. To his devotees, this seemed preordained, the ultimate trick-or-treat, that the Black Pope would officially die on All Hallows Eve. In the immediate aftermath, LaVey's family kept his death a secret for several days. Only after LaVey's body was cremated in a secret satanic funeral in Colma, California, attended by invitation only under the cover of night, did his eldest daughter Carla make a public announcement. At a macabre press conference, Carla LaVey stood holding hands with a wax statue of her father, one he had made years prior for a wax museum, as she confirmed the news to cameras. It was as if Anton LaVey had become one of his own lifelike mannequins, hovering between reality and legend, even in death. Inevitably, rumors sprang up about LaVey's final moments. A particularly lurid tale spread that, on his deathbed, LaVey suddenly saw something with his final breath and cried out, "Oh my, what have I done? There is something very wrong." An implication of a deathbed repentance or terror. This story made the rounds in Christian circles, eager to believe that the devil's high priest had one last change of heart. However, investigation by the fact-checking site Snopes found that the rumor is entirely unfounded. LaVey apparently died unconscious, without any final pronouncement. This false tale of his last words is nonetheless telling. It shows that even in death, LaVey's life accrued myth, a fitting final trick by those who sought to diminish him. After LaVey's passing, a bitter dispute erupted over the final inheritance of his satanic legacy. In a coda worthy of a soap opera or a grim fairy tale, LaVey's estranged daughter Zena and her husband Nicholas Schreck released a scathing 9-page fact sheet in early 1998, attacking LaVey's life story. They confirmed many of journalist Lauren Wright's earlier exposés, that LaVey had lied incessantly about his past. He never worked with the police, never had a fling with Monroe, never tamed lions in a circus, contrary to his claims. They painted him as a narcissistic con man who had started to believe his own satanic Bible hype. While some of their points had merit, LaVey was a liar about his biographical details. He openly admitted, "I'm a hell of a liar. I lie constantly and incessantly," in his last essay compilation. Many of Zena's barbs seemed fueled by personal resentment. The Church of Satan's leadership, which by mutual agreement passed to Blanche Barton after LaVey's death, fired back at Zena, and a messy legal battle over LaVey's property ensued. In the end, LaVey's estate, including the famed Black House, was divided. The Black House, in poor repair, caught in legal limbo, was eventually demolished in 2001 to the dismay of Satanists who saw it as a piece of dark history. Condominiums now stand at 6114 California Street, but pilgrims still drive by to see where the unholy church once stood. The Church of Satan itself survived LaVey, though it splintered. Blanche Barton led it for a few years, but by 2001, she ceded leadership to Peter H. Gilmore, a longtime member whom LaVey had respected. Gilmore and the new administration moved the church's headquarters to New York and maintained LaVey's teachings via the internet and publications. Carla LaVey, feeling sidelined, formed a separate group in San Francisco called the First Satanic Church in 1999 to carry on her father's work in her own way. Meanwhile, entirely new satanic-inspired movements sprang up, most notably the Satanic Temple, founded in 2013, which borrowed LaVey's Satan as a symbol approach, but directed it into political activism for secularism. The Satanic Temple's founders openly acknowledged a debt to LaVey's philosophy, while also rejecting his more reactionary social views. LaVey had flirted with social Darwinism and even kept fascist regalia as shock symbols in his home. In a sense, the torch of satanic satire passed to a new generation, one focused on pranks like Baphomet statues and satanic school clubs to challenge church-state entanglement, endeavors that LaVey might have smirked at, even if he had disagreed with their political liberalism. Anton LaVey's legacy today is multifaceted. To religious scholars, he's recognized as the father of modern Satanism, the man who, for better or for worse, took the figure of Satan and made it the center of an actual organized religion. His ideas have influenced occult literature and new religious movements, ensuring that Satanism will forever be studied alongside other new religious phenomena of the 20th century. To pop culture, LaVey remains an enduring icon of the counterculture, immortalized in countless film characters, songs, and novels that riff on his persona. Whether it's a bald satanic high priest in a horror movie or references in metal music, LaVey's archetype lives on as the image of a Satanist. He even made it into comic books and video games as a villainous caricature. Yet those who knew him often described a more human side. Friends recall him cackling at episodes of The Munsters and performing amusing parlor tricks, or doting on pet cats. He kept numerous cats, finding them suitably satanic in their independence. He was a bundle of contradictions, a man who preached Nietzschean strength but loved cheesy monster movies, a liar and a dreamer, who nonetheless gave confidence and identity to many alienated individuals. In his final interview, LaVey was asked how he thought he'd be remembered. With a sly grin, he answered that, "I'll never die. I've made arrangements." In a way, he wasn't joking. Anton LaVey lives on as the idea of him endures, and endure it has. Each Halloween, and whenever a sensational crime or story invokes Satanists, the specter of LaVey's shaven, devilish face isn't far behind in the public imagination. He made sure of that by crafting his life into a lasting legend, a suspenseful paranormal thriller all its own. LaVey once wrote, "I'm as much of a devil as I need to be." And though showmanship and substance alike, he ensured the world would always wonder just how much a devil he was. Thank you guys so much for watching this brand new deep dive video. I really hope that you enjoyed it, and if you did, please hit the like button, leave me a comment down below, hype it if you can, and definitely subscribe if you're not subscribed already. All that stuff helps me out tremendously. Please also consider becoming a patron over at patreon.com/mysteryarchives, and check out my